Hello, Ken Spriggs here with part 9 and the finale of my Mandalorian meets Ahsoka 3D printed figures and diorama on the planet Corvus. So a lot of work, obviously most of the work on the Mandalorian this week and finishing him up, and also little baby Grogu. And then I will show him on the diorama with the final reveal with Ahsoka and her beautiful lightsabers. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so I had to do a little bit of repairing on Mando's legs. Those white parts right there you see, those are some styrene tubing. Those pieces below didn't print very well, so I cut them off, sanded them, and just fashioned my own. It was easier than printing the whole thing again, which the rest of it was fine. So sometimes that happens, especially when you have all these little parts sticking out that aren't supported necessarily. So, all right, so I have these ready to go. I'm going to again get some primer on the body, and then we'll start looking at getting Mando painted as well. All right, so I've begun doing some airbrushing and getting some basic coats down onto the Mandalorian, and also onto Mirai, Ahsoka Tano, after I got a primer coat. So I'm looking at some pictures of him, and I'm trying to get some ideas of the colors. He definitely looks like he's more in the darker gray range of his cape and his outfit, but some pictures look as though they are more of a brown tint. So I'm kind of playing around with it and getting some ideas. But I initially started with some rubber black on the cape. And I sprayed a little bit of the light gray, or dark gray, I'm sorry, over top of that, just to kind of add a little bit of a different tones to it. And I'm going to do more things with it, obviously. I'm going to be using a lot of weathering powders on these. On the main body, like the legs, the main pants, and his arms, other than the metal and his gloves, and also on the chest part at the top, I went with NATO black. And I've already done some sanding on his armor to smooth it down because I want this to be shiny. Now I put some khaki down here on this part, but looking at some scenes, it looks more like it's an olive green, or I'll probably use the JAA green on it that I've used before. And then his boots are more of a brown, so I did kind of a khaki on that as well, like a light brown. And I'll come back. So none of these are the final colors. I'm definitely going to be doing some more things, but I want to kind of flesh out the main tones and then kind of go from there. Now on his little pouches and the little charges on his belt, I just did like a dark gray for right now. There's definitely going to be some metallics on these. The pouches I still think are more of a brown, so I'm going to take a look at that and figure out what to do with it. I have his helmet primed and his two pauldrons, so I'm going to let those sit for a bit, and then I'm going to sand any issues that I see with it and make sure that these are nice and smooth, because I want to get the gloss black and put some outclad stainless steel down on that. Also on the arm, the entire arm weapons that he has on both arms are going to be the stainless steel as well to look like Beskar. And then these two plates on the front are going to be that color. This little part here is an extension of this, and I'm going to do, like I said, like a JA green on that. It's like a dark green. These two panels on either side, I'm going to go with a field blue because they look sort of like a darker blue, pale blue. Well, not pale, like a darker blue. So quite a bit to do on these. Figure out what color his holster is. So I'm looking at a bunch of screenshots to try to get some ideas of what he is supposed to look like. So let me go ahead and show you a few screenshots here just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm going for. All right, so as you can see from the screenshots, definitely some kind of an olive green on this part here, and then continuation up here onto his waist, which I want to do like a JA green on that. The field blue right here I want to use on his two side panels. It's kind of hard to get some good shots of those. The boots are kind of close right now, but they're going to get, you know, dirtied up and that sort of thing to get them more of the brown leather. But I'm going to be using definitely some flat brown on things like his belt here and these little belts where these charges are and that sort of thing. And possibly some NATO brown to go with it as well. So I'm going to kind of play with it. But I can definitely see some brownish tones in this underall, this his pants, and like the tunic that's underneath everything, to kind of offset it a bit from the cape and that sort of thing. So I'll continue to look at some screenshots and do a little bit of painting and figure out what I want to do and get the final colors that are going to go there. So, and definitely some metallics on the buckles and that sort of thing. So, okay. All right, well, let me go ahead and do some more painting, and definitely Mando's coming together pretty good already. All right, so I carefully painted the eyes of Mirai. I didn't show all the colors because I just used a bunch of greens and clear green and some clear and black and white and that sort of thing. So just to kind of give, and I watered them down a lot, thinned them down a lot so that the area around her eyes, try to get a focus on that, is a bit of a greenish patch, and then I use some weathering powders over top of it, some Tamiya green, and then I painted the beak gray, and put a little bit of weathering powders on the wings as well, just to kind of bring down a little bit of the shine, because they're kind of a brown, and then the green on the back as well. Okay, I didn't want to go too crazy, but I think that looks pretty cool. And then she'll be sitting on the branch behind Ahsoka. So, all right, so I'm going to put her aside for now, and then, come on. I may come back to her a little bit later, but we'll see if I need to touch her up at all. And there's a little aluminum tube that's coming down that fits into a spot on the branch that I made for her. So, okay. All right, and she's not permanently attached, but there she is on the branch. in the back, looking kind of ominous. It kind of looks like she's staring down in the same direction that Ahsoka is over to Mando, and kind of giving him the evil eye. So that's going to be pretty cool. And of course, I put Ahsoka on the base. I'm not going to show her lightsabers lit up or anything until the final reveal. So, and there's a light behind me, so obviously it's putting a shadow on the background. You're not going to see that though normally, because she'll be in. This will be in some normal light. So, okay. Zoom in a little bit on her. All right, so pretty cool. All right, so I wasn't real happy with the little teeny aluminum tubes that were holding Mando in, and there were 2 on each foot. And it's kind of hard too because his back foot is sticking up in the air. So I took those out and I replaced them with some thicker brass tubes, really thick ones. And down in the base, I put in some thicker aluminum tubes for these to ride into. And then the one on the back, I left it sticking up a bit since this is going up in the back of his foot. And I can paint that and disguise it with some, like some of the green stuff here, so you don't really see the tubes. So, but it's a lot sturdier now because he's pretty heavy with his cape. And he's a larger figure, so I'm not worried about Ahsoka because she's pretty light and the little pins are good for her. So, okay. All right, so I used some epoxy sculpt to make a more filled out cloak for little Grogu, and fitted him onto his rock. So he's sitting there. I'll let that start to set up a bit, and then I'll pull it away so it doesn't stick on permanently since I have to paint it still. And there's Mando standing in with his new solid tubes. Just to make sure that he was in the right position. So, and he'll be in a nice place for you to see him and everything too. So he won't be blocked by Mando with the view. So, okay. All right, so as I showed in the previous stills, I got the field blue onto the side panels. And I'm going to add other effects like some weathering powders to change the tone. A lot of the images on his body are very much similar in tones, not a huge amount of difference. And then I got the JA green there on this part here. And also on the corresponding part on the top, because it's supposed to be one piece that goes between the two, and the belt is going around it. Oh, sorry. You put that together. All right. So I got those there. A little bit of the khaki underneath on the bottom there. So some different tones in his outfit. I may use some oils on these and then some weathering powders. So, okay. All right, so let me go ahead. I have to do the belt in brown, and I believe his belt around his waist is also in a brown also. So we'll go ahead and get some more of that, and slowly coming together with the main base colors. All right, so quite a bit of masking to paint all these brown parts, but they turned out really nicely. So I have the I have his belt and his holster painted the brown. I have this band on his leg with the charges on it, also painted brown. Okay, and then I have the belt across his chest. I did the back as well, but it's not going to be shown. It's going to be hidden behind his cape. And then his cape as well actually has a part of his belt that's supposed to be connecting and going over his shoulder for his rifle. So I painted that also. All right, so very cool. All right, so that's probably most of the main airbrushed colors other than the armor, which I'm going to do last because I'm going to have to mask everything off and have everything ready to go, all the pieces, so I can do it all at once, because that's kind of a little more involved process since it's a different kind of a lacquer paint. You got to use different thinners and that kind of thing. So I'll do all of those at once. But I like how all the colors are starting to come together. You can see how that blue in there kind of sticks out. And I put a little bit of white Tamiya weathering powders on that and on the other side. And I put a little bit of green and white on the front part as well. And I'll do the same with the brown. All right, so definitely coming together. Probably the next thing will be to get some of these other pieces down here that have special painting, like that band around there with the little knee rockets, which he never uses, that Boba Fett uses. So, all right, but definitely looking pretty fantastic and coming along really well. So, okay. All right, so I've begun using some of my Tamiya weathering powders, and I've got quite a few of them. And they're really nice because they go over oils, which I've used before. I showed that on the diorama to kind of dull them down. They also add some different gradient variations into materials, but they also do metallics. So as you can see here, I did this part right here with some gunmetal, and that's came out nice and shiny and metallic. I did some light gunmetal down here on this band, so that one's really shiny, you can see. And there's some of the back of that with the gunmetal. I also used some of the brown to dull down this brown that was here to make it look more of a dusty, leathery kind of a brown, that sort of thing. And then over in here I used some burnt red, actually, which looks more of a brown, to make this metal here, which is kind of a brown metal, and bring that out in this part down here too, and the band going down the center. So, all right, so that works really nice. So let me kind of show you. Let's use, for example, some, we have some mud, light sand, mud obviously being brown. So what I can do is I can make this brown, for example, look less, obviously brown, more of a leathery brown, which is what it's supposed to be. Okay, and what it does, which is nice, is it gets into the little detail that these have on them, and I still got to do the metal on these. Okay, hope you can see that in frame. Okay, so it dulled down the shininess of it, or the really bright brown. I'll do the same here on the belt. And you have a brush, and you also have you can use the little felt tip at the end, and that also will that'll get it on a lot stronger. That's how I did this metal down here that's really shiny. But for like his belt up here, I don't want it to be really caked on. I just want to do dull down the colors and make them look more random. All right, so definitely on his little holster here, because these are all pretty dirty and worn out as well. He's seen a lot of action, so he's not going to have really nice, clean, wonderful looking uniform. Kind of wonder how he does his laundry. Does he have laundry on the Razor Crest before it got obliterated? Spoiler alert, sorry. Okay, there we go. So it definitely adds more of a realism to it. And because this has detail in it, it's hard for you to see, but it really brings it out and makes it look pretty cool. So what I can also do, like he has a metal buckle here. So what I want to do is I want to use a metallic, maybe like a gunmetal. And for this one, I'm going to use the little felt tip. So you can actually rub it on there, and it really highlights it and makes it look metallic. But it's not garishly so. Like if I just use paint on it, it would be very obvious that it's a metallic. But it looks more like a worn metallic. And I can put a little bit of silver in there. Or, yeah, silver. Just kind of bring it up a little bit. And I've done the same thing with like rust, put some rusts in there. Okay, there we go. So that belt buckle looks pretty cool. So I'm not going to need to paint that at all. It's just the right kind of metallic that stands out from the rest of it, but it's not garishly so with paints. So I like that. I'm going to use that there. Sometimes actually, let me see if I want to use this on the let me test it on the back where I'm not going to see them. Okay, yeah. So I can do these. I could do these little charges, these little rounds on his belt. There we go. So I can do those in silver and just use the weathering powders. And the nice thing is that the little bit of the brown that I miss with it, it actually looks kind of natural, as though they're just dirty. So that's cool. So let's do that. Show you the tops, obviously, are easy to do. Now I want to be careful because I don't want to get it on the rest of this figure in places I don't want them to be. But that's pretty cool. There we go. Yeah, so these are very versatile. I've gotten all the sets that I saw were available. I believe there are like 8 of them, something like that. So I have a variety of colors which I can use on different models to highlight the detail and make it pop a little bit. So here we go. Okay, cool. Let me put some on that. I'm not sure if that's metal or not, but it is now. You can also do things like these little rivets right here on the end, the tips of his little strap holder. You can just put them on there and just give it a little bit of shine so it kind of stands out from the rest of it. So, okay, all right. So I will go ahead and work on this some more and add more detail to it, but it's coming along really nice. You just start with the basic colors, like I said, the pretty much the same ones that kind of go together, and then you just add to them, and that's how you end up with a variation of colors. So, all right. All right, and here is a completed little Grogu figure with his epoxy sculpt clothing at the bottom. And so I used, I showed you the colors previously: khaki for the main clothing, some sand for his sleeves and his scarf. I used sky for his skin, which is actually kind of an interesting light green. And then I went over it with some weathering powders of the green. For his ears there, I used weathering powders as well, which are very versatile. I used a little bit of the peach, a little bit of the pale orange with the sponge tip, and just put that inside of his ears to give it that look. And then for his eyes, I just painted them black, flat black, and put some shiny clear onto it to give it some life. All right, so nothing spectacular, but he looked pretty cool. So let's take a look at him on his rock. All right, there we go. So he's obviously not glued on there yet. I have to do a little bit of touch up and get him glued on, but he looks pretty cool. And he's not the main star of this diorama, but he certainly is there, and he should be on his little rock. So I think he looks pretty cool. All right. All right, so I pretty much finished detailing Mando where I want him to be as far as the base colors and the different colors, other than his armor, which is going to be Alclad's stainless steel. So I did a ton of masking, as you can see. Here's his body for his two thigh plates. I have his chest, covered up that belt and everything except that plate showing. It's going to be metallic. Just a little bit more sanding there. The two arm weapon mechanisms, which are all shiny Beskar as well. So I got those all taped off. And then I did some sanding, and I got the tip of his rifle ready to go because I'm going to make that aluminum. And then his pauldrons, which thankfully were separate from the rest of it, so I don't have to worry about masking anything. They just get painted and then they get glued on. And his helmet as well. Now the neck part will be just that little bit of neck part showing there is going to be gray, but I'll just brush that on. It's a small part. But a ton of sanding to really bring down the lines the best that I could, especially on this helmet, because I want this to be really smooth and shiny. So we did a whole lot of sanding over and over. I did the same on the rest of it to get them to be where they need to be. So, okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and put a coat of the gloss black over top of all these parts, let them dry sufficiently, and then I'll go ahead and put on the stainless steel and the aluminum, and then just finish painting the rifle, and we'll be pretty much all set with the Mandalorian as well. All right. All right, so my outclad parts turned out fantastically. Really like the shine on that helmet. Glad I took the extra effort to really sand those down. So I have his visor painted first with some flat black and then some Tamiya smoke to make it clear. I put some gray on the neck part that would be visible and dusted some Tamiya gray weathering powders on it. I got the arms completed. So I have the pauldrons glued on. Those turned out really well also. And so did the forearm weapons. I got the gun painted a dark iron and a flat aluminum for the barrel. I used some rubber black on his gloves and I believe I used, was it khaki? And then I put on some orange looking powders. Oops. Same thing with this one over here. Looks pretty cool. All right. And then I got the legs and the upper torso glued on. There are the thigh armors. I might dirty those up a little bit with some oils, we'll see. These ones are a little more beat up than the other ones are supposed to be. There's the chest armor. Get that in some light. I wanted that to be nice and shiny. Pretty cool. All right. So the next thing I'll do is go ahead and get the arms glued on to the body. And then the last thing will be the cape and the head. The cape's got to be glued on pretty solidly with some 5-minute epoxy because it's going to be pulling down some weight. And then I just have to finish up the rifle and he'll be all set. All right. All right, and there's the completed rifle. So I did a couple of shades of brown on the stock, and it already had a wood grain in it, which you can see. And then I went back over it with some weathering powders, which kind of brought that back out, which is pretty cool. So it looks like it's wood. I used a little bit of a mix of a little bit of dark iron with the metallic gray for the main parts of the metal, and then put some weathering powder, some gunmetal over that. I also did some of the khaki, over this wood piece up here, and put some weathering powders, a little bit of chrome silver over the little bands where they're supposed to connect, and then some is it gold leaf? I think I said no. It's here somewhere, but I think it was gold leaf for the two bands holding the scope on. Some dark iron on the scope as well. Okay, it's looking pretty cool. All right, so that's all done. Oh, and then I tried to do some outclad aluminums on the tip, but it just wasn't working right. It was at the very bottom of the of the bottle. I think it was kind of gunked up. So I went over it again with some other silvers and some weathering powders as well to get that just an aluminum look. So, okay. All right, let me get that glued on the back of his cape, and that will finish up the Mandalorian. All right, and there is the completed Mandalorian. I'm really happy with how he turned out. I especially like his Beskar armor, how shiny it looks, how it stands out. And it's really going to catch the light from Ahsoka's lightsabers when he's on that darkened base. You can see his rifle there that you just kind of see over his shoulder. Turn him around. This is his rifle on the back. The two big brass tubes, which work a lot better to keep him supported. He's still not really that heavy, but he's sort of heavier to his left because of the cape. But that cape is really cool. That's one of the best features of this print that I really, really like. So you got his shiny arm weapons, the little white plates on his hands, his blaster. Little pouches, which I like that they made those separate. Those are nice. You can see his little charges in there. Here's his other arm weapon. His glove. His chest armor, which turned out really, really nice and smooth. I'm really happy with that. His left pauldron. His right one with a little horned beast symbol on it. And of course his helmet, which looks really, really great as well. Nice and smooth. All right, so overall, really, really happy with how he turned out. He's the best version I've done yet. He's the third version that I've completed of The Mandalorian. He's the most accurate and especially up to date with how he looks in this episode. This is how he really looks. So, and it's a really cool pose with the cape. Now, of course, he's not in a fighting stance or anything, which if there was a figure like this in this particular nicely done accuracy, that would be cool as well. But he wasn't designed to be in a diorama with Ahsoka. So I'm just assuming that it's right before she attacks him and she just comes out of nowhere. So he's just wandering through the woods looking for her, and out of nowhere she just comes at him with some lightsabers, starts going at him with his Beskar armor. So, all right. So before I put him onto the base and show the final reveal, I have one more item that I have to work on, a nameplate for it as well. So, okay. All right, so my good friend Marc Fraley designed a nameplate for this diorama. He's done two other ones for me, one for my Predator pod ship build and one for my Mando and Queel riding their blurgs. He did a Mandalorian one for that as well. So this one he did as a one piece, which is really nice. So it has the base. The other ones I actually glued it onto some styrene to slide underneath the front of it, but this is perfect. So I started with a coat of primer from Tamiya Fine Surface Primer, and then I put on a coating of the JA green that I showed before this to kind of match him with the greens. And now I'm going to go ahead and start painting in some of the lettering, the raised lettering in her little head there in the middle. So, okay. There is my finished nameplate for the Mandalorian, the Jedi. So I went with, I was going to use some of the orange I originally did, but it had dried up. So I tried to rejuvenate it with some thinner, but it didn't really work. So I just went ahead and mixed some more red and yellow and some gray to kind of get that orange look. Doesn't have to be exact. Obviously white in the middle for her hair. I did a khaki for the Mandalorian and a yellow for Star Wars. Then I took some weathering powders and I did some green over the JA green just to kind of give it a more even look. And I did some gunmetal around the beveled edge and on the bottom. So, okay, so this is all complete as well. I think it looks quite beautiful. Thanks again, Marc Fraley. So let me go ahead and get everything together and I will show you the final reveal of this fantastic diorama of Mandalorian meets Ahsoka Tano for the first time. All right, and there is the final diorama. Just wanted to show it first before I turn on the fantastic lighting. So there's the nameplate that I just completed. There is Ahsoka Tano on the left side, looking pretty badass and staring down Mando. She's ready to go at him with her lightsabers. There's a Mandalorian, having no idea what he's gotten himself into. Little Grogu on his rock down there. Little Morai up on her tree branch, giving the dirty eye to Mando as well. All right, my dirty nasty creek down the center. Twisted trees and rotted out tree stump. Trees in the back. All right, so let me go ahead and turn on the moon and then we'll light this up and see the final reveal. All right, and there's the cool looking moon, which is coming up pretty nice in the video, right behind Ahsoka Tano. So then I have my remote control, of course. I'll just go ahead and point it at the area over in there. And we have lightsabers. Fantastic. I really like how the glow of her lightsabers just lights up the whole display and brings everything to life. So I deliberately chose the darker colors. I think I've said this before, to kind of portray a night scene with the idea that I didn't want the colors of the greenery or even the background to overpower the lightsabers and be too bright. Same with the trees and everything else. So I think that's fantastic. It just lights up the whole scene, makes her kind of the center focus. You can see the light shining off of Mando's armor. Little Grogu's lit up. Even Morai the Owl is lit up from the light. A little bit of shadows back on the backdrop for the twisted tree, but I think that just adds to the ambience of the entire scene. So, and there's the nameplate on the front, which is really cool. It also finishes hiding up that little bit of a seam right there in the front for the two halves that can come apart, of course, which I probably won't do very much, but it does really add to the transportability of this since it's pretty big. It's really not that heavy. The acrylic frames are probably the heaviest part of either of these, since they're mostly just foam and some particle board on the bottom, but it certainly helps with that. So there's a shot of Ahsoka looking really upset. I like how the sabers light up her face and her features, and Morai back there in the background, and the cool moon, of course, glowing back there. And overall, an above shot of it. Okay. All right, so really happy with how this all turned out. A lot of new innovations that I had to work on to make this work, as far as the vinyl cutter for her tattoos, the using vinyl for the backdrop and printing it out. A lot of the things I've done before as far as the scenic material and foam carving, and it was kind of new. Well, I have used a little bit before the polymer clay, but I've kind of gotten better at that and improved that as far as my trees and my trees, rotted out tree log, and that sort of thing. And then certainly, absolutely, the lightsabers. So again, many thanks to Boylei Hobbytime. Certainly check out his channel. He's fantastic. And it was an idea originally that kind of wanted me to do this whole diorama and light up her lightsabers, because I saw his use of the light bulb filaments to do that. So many thanks to him. Check out his channel. I will put a link in the description, and he's always doing really amazing and incredible things. So for sure, check that out. All right, fantastic. So I will show one more shot of the two parts opened, just to kind of show you how that works. Right, there we go. And like I said, I won't be doing this very often, but it does afford me that ability, so you can get a nice straight on shot of Ahsoka. And you can get a nice straight on shot of Mando as well. You can appreciate all the detailing in his armor and that sort of thing. So, and I have it just taped together with some electrical tape, as I said, in the back. So that works really nice, because it blocks any light from coming through the back and holds them together nicely. You can see a little piece of it down there at the bottom, but I think that works fantastically as far as just holding them together. So I don't need any kind of a permanent hinge. You can see the water there, how it's split up, the other side of it. So, okay. All right, so fantastic. Really, really happy with how this build has turned out. All right, so that's going to wrap up this build and this video for this week. Very happy with the way my this whole build turned out. And as I said previously, definitely pushed the boundaries of a lot of my skills and learning to do some new things. So definitely we'll use those skills in the future for other builds and hone those as well. So let me go ahead and finish this video up with a little slideshow of some shots of the diorama and the figures again. All right, well, thanks again to my new subscribers, and I will see you next time when I return to working on the Discovery build that I had begun already. All right, thanks a lot.